commodities as well. We saw the crude prices fell as much as 5% overnight. It's now closing close to around that $75 to the barrel mark. And remember, this is the lowest perhaps that we have seen so far in a few months. In fact, it's the biggest intraday decline that we saw since January 2023, and it's the lowest level since March of 24. Of course, there's this worry about the US bond default as well. That's weighing on the sentiment. The comments coming in from Janet Yellen yesterday. And then ahead of Fed policy, there's this overall weakness with respect to demand momentum that the street is penciling in. Of course, while it is good, a good news for the users, the likes of paint, aviation, etc., it's a bit of negative when it comes to oil explorers as well as for oil marketing companies. It's a bit of a mixed reaction coming in. So we'll watch out for those counters. But Pankaj, back home, of course, it was about the fact that the positive momentum continued yesterday in the trading session. And then a lot of result reactions look more positive than negative back home.
Absolutely. At least the commentary, the way they're declaring numbers are all looking on the positive side. We have Tata Steel, which will be reacting today, and a lot of other mid-cap companies, the likes of Chola, various others, which of course we'll get previews going in just a bit. Let's go across to Peter McGuire now. Crude was one of the big stories overnight, falling about 5%. Peter, what is the sense that you get regarding the fall in crude prices?
Yeah, absolutely, Pankaj. I mean, it's hit the market by surprise, and I think it's really, coming to home to roost. Some of this bad data coming out of the States, bank issues, Janet Yellen, and of course, the softness from the Chinese economy. So I think there's just a bit of a melting pot at the moment, and the markets have given up that strong gains that they had a couple of weeks back, and it just seems to be in a little bit further structural decline.
So where do you see crude prices settling down? At least in the near term.
Well, I think you're going to see some further softness from here. It's at $71 a barrel and 75 for Brent, so you might see, high 60s for WTI. It's very much a day-by-day proposition. I want to see what happens as far as the Fed, what's happening with the ECB, and the overall theme. But at the moment, you've got to say it's correcting to the downside. And is there much more falling to happen over the next week or so?
Given the fact that you also have another data point, which is the fact that China showed that the manufacturing activity over the weekend fell quite unexpectedly, given that it's one of the world's largest energy consumers, a top buyer of crude oil, how did this influence prices and what's the outlook?
Well, exactly. I mean, that's a concern from the Chinese perspective, and we're conscious as far as, slowdown there, and that's all going to add weight to a market that's looking a little bit fractured at the moment. So it quickly turned, and it's turned very much to the downside, and we've just got to see from a demand picture how it all moves forward. But it's certainly not rosy. Wonder if OPEC Plus are thinking of further cuts because they want $85 a barrel. So it's going to be interesting how it plays out.
The crude prices. But Peter, do you think this was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction? You expect it to stabilize back around that $80 per barrel mark? Or at least in the near term, we are likely to see this volatility and weakness is likely to persist?
Well, I think we'll see further weakness, and I wouldn't be surprised, but the volatility, absolutely, when you see 5% washouts in a session, that's volatile. So everyone's short at the moment. They're all just sitting on their hands, seeing how it all rolls. But, yeah, there's a lot of nervousness out there. Traders are realising, the dynamics at play, and it's just a little bit of a confused market at the moment. So we've just got to see how the rest of April goes. But, pardon me, when I say that, the rest of May goes. But I think we're going to see, increased volatility.
Was the take coming in as far as crude is concerned, so definitely something to watch out for the trading session today. As I pointed out earlier, it's a bit of a mixed queue coming in for the oil marketing companies, but positive for the likes of aviation, paint companies. Aviation, of course, is going to be in focus on account of that entire Gopher saga as well. We saw how the company has filed for voluntary insolvency as well, so that would play on the minds of investors as well. Plus the entire group of companies will be in focus, as well as the bankers to go first will be something that we'll have to watch out for.